Good morning, and welcome to a candidate forum featuring candidates for Galt City Council in the November 4th general election. I'm Suzanne Finney, a member of the League of Women Voters of Sacramento County and the moderator for today's forum. This forum is co-sponsored by the League of Women Voters and the Sacramento Metropolitan Cable Television Commission. The forum is being viewed live by an audience in the Sacramento Board of Supervisors chambers and by a live cable television audience at home. It is also being taped for rebroadcast on Metro Cable Channel 14, allowing hundreds of viewers to hear this forum over the next 4 weeks. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization of women and men established to promote political responsibility through informed and active participation of citizens in government. The League does not support, oppose, or evaluate candidates or political parties. Although our nonpartisanship policy does not permit endorsement of political candidates, we do, after careful study, take positions on political issues. The format for today's forum will be as follows. Each candidate will make a 1-minute opening statement. Next, the candidates will respond to questions from our panel, and the questions were submitted by the panelists and reviewed by League members. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to a question, although not all candidates will address each question. However, we will have time at the end of the question and answer period to allow candidates to respond to any question that they were dying to answer but didn't get a chance to. And then finally, the candidates will have 1 minute to make a closing statement. Now I would like to introduce the candidates who are running for Galt City Council. And starting at my far right, Rick Sultan, Frederick Gaethel, Barbara Payne, Randy Shelton, and Tim Raboy. There are 4 other candidates who are running for Galt City Council but are not able to be with us today. So we welcome you all and thank you for participating in our forum. Sitting on our panel of questioners are Ross Farrow with the Lodi News Sentinel, Rachel Ackerman with the Galt Herald News, and Loretta Kalb with the Sacramento Bee. Thank you very much for participating today. We are now ready to begin, and we're going to start with our opening statements. Again, these are 1-minute opening statements by our candidates, and we're going to start with Rick Sultan.
Good morning. My name is Rick Sultan, and I've lived in Galt for almost 10 years. I'm married to my beautiful wife, Jill, and we have 2 children, Kaylee and Adam, who attend Marengo Ranch Elementary School and are at home watching on TV. I am currently on the Park Master Plan Ad Hoc Committee. I am running for council to maintain Galt's character and quality of life. I am for family and community and believe Galt's character comes from this. And this was definitely on display when we had our hometown celebration for our Olympic gold medal list. I am definitely the candidate for change. My priorities will be our economy, retail growth, and public safety. We need to improve Galt's economic base. I support responsible growth. In regards to public safety, we need to be fiscally responsible and eliminate wasteful spending throughout the city budget. I believe that important public safety and maintaining a high level of city services is essential for keeping Galt the safe, livable community of character that we all love.
Thank you. And our next opening statement will be by Fred Gaethel.
Hi, my name's Frederick Gaethel. I've been a resident of the city. We're in our 5th year of residency. I'm very active with the high school, Bond Oversight Committee for Liberty Ranch, Safety Committee, Site Council. I've been involved in some other community things and have spent the last 30 years living in different cities around the country and have worked with public safety and other governmental agencies working with budgets and fiscal responsibility. My platform is based on 3 items. One is fiscal responsibility. The next item is cooperation within the city. There's too much infighting in the city, and I don't believe that we have enough cooperation. And the third item is planned, intelligently designed growth.
Thank you. And our next opening statement by Barbara Payne.
As Galt City Council person for the past few years, my priority has been to be responsive to the people. I responded to the handicap needs by accelerating ADA compliance on city streets. I responded to the need for stronger and better law enforcement, and 3 police officers were added for the first time in 10 years without raising taxes, established an independent audit of our evidence room, and supported reinstating the STEP program. I responded to the needs of the youth with programs like Safe Routes to School and established the Galt City Council Youth Committee. I responded to the call for safer neighborhoods with the I Love Galt volunteer program. I responded to the need for an economic development plan by bringing CalEd to analyze and give direction to our town. I responded to the needs of senior citizens as a member of the Adult and Aging Commission. I responded to the needs to solve our traffic problems as a member of the Sacramento Transportation Authority. I responded to the demands of the people that the city be fiscally responsible by questioning rather than rubber stamping city spending.
Thank you. And our next opening statement by Randy Shelton.
Good morning. I'm Randy Shelton. I'm running for election for Galt City Council. I have 40 years in the fire service, and I'm a retired deputy state fire marshal. My wife and I have lived in Galt for 18 years. We have 4 children and 2 grandchildren. If elected, I will work to build a strong foundation for the community, have open communications with all elected officials so that Galt can acquire its fair share of funding. I want to work with the fire department, law enforcement, school boards so that we become a cohesive community. I will make sound decisions concerning smart growth. That must include a decision regarding our wastewater treatment plant and bringing businesses, entertainment, especially for the youth, and a new community senior center to our area. To move forward, we must have positive motivation and work together as a community. Thank you for your support.
Thank you. And our final opening statement by Tim Raboy.
Hello, my name is Tim Raboy. I'm running for election to the Galt City Council. Let me tell you a little about myself. My family and I have been living in Galt for about 19 years, and my wife Casey and I have 5 children. I currently work in Sacramento as a supervising criminal investigator for the state of California. I'm running for the Galt City Council to continue the good work that the current council has embarked on. In my campaign for re-election, I do not accept campaign contributions from anyone. All financing for my campaign is from our own family's expenses. So you can trust that I represent the best interests of the citizens of Galt. I have the varied experience to continue serving on the Galt City Council. I've served the community on the Galt Planning Commission, the City of Galt Anti-Gang, Anti-Drug, Public Safety Committee, the new Police Station Committee, the Greenbelt Committee, the City County Solid Waste Advisory Committee, the City Schools Committee, the High School Underperforming Committee, and the Sacramento County Criminal Justice Cabinet.
Thank you. That concludes opening statements, and now we're going to move to question and answers. And so, Ross, will you start off with the first question? It will be directed to Randy, and Barbara and Tim will also respond to it.
Okay. If you were elected to this year, would you, if you're in the, sometimes you're in the majority on growth, and sometimes you're in the minority on growth, and sometimes other issues, how will you work with other council members, especially if you're on the minority side politically?
Randy,
thank you for the question. Well, I've been there several times, and it is, I think, my job to convince the other elected officials or the other elected officials and the public to give me the information to lead me one way or the other. And that happens quite often, but you know, we must be open-minded and we must be able to kind of give just a little bit, you know. Thank you.
Thank you. Barbara?
Well, you have to leave the personalities out of it. You have to look at the issues and say what is best for the community, regardless of who is sponsoring the program or the issue, and always keep in mind what is best for the citizens.
Thank you. And Tim?
4 years ago, when the council majority was elected, it was a pro-growth council majority, and it was basically a 4-to-1 pro-growth majority. And you just have to deal with what the people have chosen. So what I did was I stuck to what I believed in, and when we dealt with the general plan or other growth issues, it was usually a 4-to-1 vote, and I was very strong in my feelings of what I believed, and I just let the public know. And then 2 years later, the public changed the majority to a 3-to-2 managed growth majority. So you just have to stick to what you believe in and speak that way.
Thank you. Rachel, will you pose a question to Frederick, and Rick and Randy will respond in that order.
Okay, we heard a lot about smart growth in Galt, and perhaps the singular pivotal issue in the last 2 or 3 election cycles has been growth, particularly in the north of Galt, between Galt and Elk Grove. We'd like to know specifically, omitting terms smart and responsible, what your vision is for the land between Elk Grove and Galt that has been hotly contested for development versus open space for the last 20 years. And again, please be specific about what you want to see happen in that area in the very near future.
Thank you. Frederick.
I would like to see a green belt along that area. I think a green belt's a natural buffer zone that belongs along the Consumnes River area. We need to do some development up in that area. I can see actually expanding some of the residential sites instead of making them these 1/8 acre or whatever sites into 2 and 3 acre parcels to attract slow, limited growth that would also be beneficial to the city. It would allow us to increase the sphere and take in more homes, but less people. And I see we have to develop retail, but I would like to see the development of retail not specifically along the corridor, but throughout the entire city.
Thank you. Next is Rick.
Yes, regarding that property and that area over there, I have built relationships with community groups in both Elk Grove and Galt, and I would like to see that land be used for a green belt and open spaces. I would like to see some of that land, especially along what's being proposed in our general plan, be developed for retail, commercial development to bring jobs, and so we can improve our local economy. That land, and I'd like to see future parks in that area. And that'd be it.
Thank you. And Randy.
Yes, the green belt is very important, and I know that we all feel that way, and I've personally been trying to assist that. I believe in, before, we talked about the sphere of influence within the city of Galt, and I feel then and I feel now that we should have went all the way out to Arnold Road, and in that area, from there south, should be commercial and industrial, so that we can assist in a tax base back into our community. That's all I have.
Thank you. Loretta, your question will be answered first by Tim, followed by Barbara and Frederick. Thank you.
This is kind of an offshoot of the last question, and that is I hear, as I do a little reporting about Galt, I hear a lot of terms thrown around like smart growth, managed growth, careful growth, but I think they're euphemisms for a larger issue here. Could the individuals who are going to answer this next question explain exactly if they're elected, if it won't apply to the incumbent necessarily, but if you're elected, will you, or re-elected, I guess, will you seek to change the general plan boundaries to the north side, on the north side of Galt?
We've been working on the general plan, this city, for I think it's 5 or 6 years now. Way too long. We've spent way too much money. The prior council 4 years ago had a general plan that was, in my opinion, massive growth for our city of Galt. way too close to Oak Grove. The new council took over 2 years ago, scaled back the general plan to what I've been more comfortable with, and I consider that moderate growth. That's what I've been supporting. We're hoping to get that done in the next few months. We've had some issues with lawsuits that are affecting our general plan, so it needs to be done as quickly as possible, hopefully in the next month, if not within the next, say, 3 months.
Thank you. Barbara?
Well, I think people need to realize that the general plan goes out for about 30 years. And I think the general plan, as it's been revised, doesn't address that. I think we already have so many existing problems that we have to look into the future as to how we're going to address those, as well as avoiding the same problems, one of those being traffic congestion. Somehow, we're going to have to find a way to relieve the pressure we have at Twin Cities, and the general plan now is emphasizing adding more retail and more commercial on that same road. I had thought if we went up McKenzie to Arno, that would have offered some relief, as well as the fact that we have 80 acres as a city that's outside the current general plan. It makes no sense that we didn't bring that into the general plan from the very beginning. I think we need better planning. I see where we are now is a result of not having good planning. Thank you.
Thank you. And Frederick?
Although I think the current general plan that's being proposed is fatally flawed, it has a number of issues with it. I would actually support passing it because it has been on the table forever and has not been passed. They're continuing to throw money at it. I believe you can address some of the fatal flaws after the general plan is been affected and make some of the changes to delete some of the defects in it.
Thank you. We're back to you, Ross. Your question will be answered first by Barbara, then Rick, then Frederick.
Okay. With the, in light of the state budget crunch and the federal economic problems, how will the city be affected by its ability to provide services, basic services?
Well, not in good ways. I can start off by saying that. We know that our redevelopment money is going to be affected, which cuts into our plans for the future for our redevelopment area, as well as the way it affects our individuals with people lacking jobs and the ability to commute because gas prices are so high. And I think we're still waiting to find out what the ultimate situation is going to be with the state. I'm watching that very closely, and I feel like our town is very vulnerable. We've been lucky in the past, but we don't have a strong base to sustain us if we run into some major catastrophes.
Thank you. Rick?
The state and local economy, along with the mortgage crisis, figure to negatively impact our city in future years. We are already tapping into the general reserves to balance projected deficits due to the decline in revenue at the Galt market. In order to protect our general fund reserves, the city needs to do two things, which are the same things that the citizens of Galt are doing every day. We need to cut the spending to find additional sources of revenue. My goal during these economic times will be to spend your tax dollars wisely while developing an economic plan that helps Galt meet its budget and provide for future improvements and ensures public safety.
Thank you. And now, Frederick.
The budget has been impacted. This year it was moderate. Next year it could be a lot worse. I believe that we need to cut back spending dramatically, especially on consultants. My plans are, first, I would, if elected, I think leadership comes from the top, so I would waive any stipend fee monthly or pay, benefits, anything of that sort. I would actually call for a pay freeze on the top city officials. They make wonderful salaries, and while the general people in the city are struggling, they live well. and I think they could afford to go a year without pay increases, and trim budgets by looking at things like gasoline costs, fuel costs, buying more fuel-efficient vehicles, to enact long-term savings into the budget.
Thank you. Rachel, your question will be answered first by Rick, then Randy, and then Tim.
Okay, in light of the economy and the effects it may have in the trickle down being so far south in Sacramento County, how do each of you feel about the city's Measure R, the measure on the November ballot for public safety, which promises to hire new officers? And in light of the economy, if things freeze up at the state, if you do not support Measure R, how do you propose to continue to provide adequate public service through economic hard times?
Thank you. Rick?
I support Measure R, providing 5 officers, 2 dispatchers, and a school resource officer to provide prevention programs. Just look around our neighborhoods during these economic times. What does our future hold? More vacant homes and blight, increased traffic, less local activities for youth? I know the Park and Rec Department is working on the latter. If Measure R passes, if Measure R passes, we help economic development by showing current and future retail businesses and consumers that Galt is a community that cares about its character. That is why so many leaders in our community support it. Measure R will fight gangs and drugs by putting more police officers on the streets and increase funds for gang and drug prevention programs, and an extra 50 cents on $100 is worth the investment.
Thank you. Randy?
Although I believe that Measure R is a separate issue as well as the propositions in the state of California, I am a supporter of public safety, but I am kind of uncomfortable in raising taxes. In walking and talking to the city, to the people in the city and the community, I am hearing from those of you that are absolutely for Measure R and those of you that are opposing it, and a lot of you that are undecided. The vote, one way or the other, will decide. First, I am happy that Measure R will be decided by the voters in Galt, not the council. I am a strong supporter of the police department. I will do everything in my power to build a well-trained, public-oriented, and effective and efficient department. A positive side to Measure R is this monies collected will go strictly to us, to the city. For those of you finding it tough to make a decision in Measure R, I fully understand. One of the things I want to do is, I'll do that at my close.
Very good. Thank you. And Tim?
I wholeheartedly support Measure R. I was on the committee that, with Don Haynes, that brought it forward. For the public, they probably don't realize why we're in the predicament that we are. The reason we are about 7 or 8 officers short is because we had 20 years of massive residential growth in Galt, and for every new house that was built, it doesn't adequately finance public safety. It never has. So as you build more and more and more houses, your officers are never going to keep up. Now, just a few years ago, I brought forward a public safety assessment on new development. So now, as houses are being built in Galt, new houses pay an assessment for police and fire, so we will never fall behind again. But if we want to catch up, for those 7 officers, then we have to pass Measure R, and we have to bring forward the public safety that the community needs and deserves. Thanks.
Thank you. Now, Loretta, let's shake things up and ask all 5 of our candidates a question.
Okay, good.
So you should all be prepared, and so you go ahead, and then I'll tell them the order.
Oh, okay. This is a follow-up on the Measure R. It strikes me that there's a reason that Galt is practically alone, I think maybe alone in the region, for a sales tax measure, a half-cent sales tax measure to boot. It's probably one of the worst economic times to bring that forward. If people who were so strapped feel they can't vote for that, and the measure fails, and you have a serious need for 7 more officers in Galt, what are you going to do about it? Where are you going to get the money to finance that public safety? What are the options?
We'll start with Barbara.
One of the things that I would want to look at right off the bat, we have over $2 million, well over $2 million budgeted for professional services. You know, we have $14 million dedicated to salaries for existing employees. You know, if my budget is tight and I can't afford to keep someone to come in and clean my house, I do the work myself. And I think the city could take a message from that and look within our own budget. And one of the things that I'm very concerned about is I didn't see that happen in the beginning before we put Measure R out. I didn't see the businesses contacted to find out how is that going to affect them, because we need a good tax base, and if we hurt our existing business and we're not attracting other business, I don't see that as an answer to the long-range plan.
Thank you. Tim?
I think Barbara knows as a council member that the reason we contract out is because we don't want to hire dozens of employees to do the job that our contractors are doing. What we contract out is very specialized work that can really not be done by hiring those staff members. And if you do, you're going to have a massive increase in your staff costs. If Measure R fails, then we will continue to have a shortage of police officers. It's that simple. It's just, you're not going to resolve that 7-officer shortage. It's about $700,000-$800,000 in a shortage. Obviously, we need to bring in more retail for Galt, but the economy's tight, and you can only bring in so much retail.
Thank you. Rick?
Following up on that, the only way we could deal if Measure R was not to pass would be to go back to economic development. We need those tax dollars, and the number one thing, and it seems like it's been in this, it's been an issue on every election for the last 4 elections, and ever since I moved to Galt, is the general plan. We have to complete our general plan to allow for future development to go forward, especially those retail commercial areas where we can have fresh businesses with quality jobs come in with new tax dollars. And also, we just have to go back and look at what we were doing prior to Measure R. We have to go back to the budget and make sure we're saving money where we can.
Thank you. Frederick?
There's a number of places in the budget that you could save money. We have pickup trucks running around town now with people in them that sit idling at the curb constantly. They're gas fueled. They get about 8 miles to the gallon. We could change those over to diesel pickup trucks that will get 18 to 20 miles to the gallon. We drive big vehicles when small vehicles would be appropriate. The police department buys all Crown Victorias. A lot of departments are moving to smaller, more fuel-efficient vehicles that save money. There's lots of ways you can save money in a city budget. People may not be happy about it. They may think that they're getting shortchanged, but in reality, other cities have dealt with this, and I don't see that Galt's any different. I don't know that we can come up with 7 officers, but I think you could fund at least 3 or 4 out of cuts through the city budget.
Thank you. Randy?
Yes. One of the things that we need to do is basically, like there was a grandma in LA back in 1990. Take back the streets, and I mean that safely. And the way we do that is we increase the neighborhood watch. It's neighbor helping neighbor, looking out for one another. If you see something, I don't mean cry woof continually, but we need to increase the neighborhood watch programs. We need to increase the CAPS program. We need to bring back the reserve program that the city of Galt had. And I know there's problems with it, and I know there's issues, but I think working together, we can take this back. We have to be very observant. That's one of the things, whether Measure R passes or not, we need to be doing that. That's one of my pushes. Thank you.
Thank you. Ross, we're going to go back to the 3-person format with Randy answering your question first, followed by Barbara and Tim.
Okay. How will the city get all the funding it needs to build a new interchange both at C Street and Twin Cities Road?
Randy?
Well, one of the things I believe that we failed to do over the last couple of years was be at the table. If we don't have an elected official talking to the state legislatures, the governor's office, the federal, our congressmen on a continual basis, and I know they can only do so much, but it seems like, for example, on C Street, it is my understanding that someone forgot to put the name City of Galt on it, and it's going to cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars. Okay? I'm concerned about that. But if we're not at the table, we need to also talk to the city elected officials like in Lodi and in Elk Grove on everything that we do. If we continue to talk and seek grants, whether it's private, federal, state, hire someone to be a grant writer for us to assist us.
Thank you. Barbara?
To sort of follow up on what Mr. Shelton was saying, well, first of all, there is a gap in the funding for the overpass at C Street, and it's the gap that we had relied on developer fees for. Where that's coming, it's going to be interesting to find out. But Randy referred to some enhancements that the City Council has looked at, which I disagree with, to spend over $900,000 for streetlights, putting our initial on the overpass, fancy landscaping. I don't think we're at that point. I think we need to worry, first of all, about just getting it built.
Thank you. And Tim?
I'm glad you called on me on this one. The reason the majority council approved those enhancements, because if otherwise you'd have an interchange that would be blank and empty. And if you drive down toward Fresno, you're going to see some interchanges down there that are just an interchange. No trees, no landscaping, nothing. There would be nothing that would enhance or entice people to get off at C Street, which is what we want. We want them to come off the freeway and shop in Galt. So that's why the majority council voted for the enhancements. We voted to put a G on the actual overpass, and it's not something that we did that we forgot about. It was brought forward when it was supposed to be brought forward in the appropriate time. So it was well worth the money, and it's going to help the city bring in revenue.
Thank you. Rachel, your question will go to Frederick, followed by Rick and Randy.
Okay. Last month, County General Purpose PAC, Protecting Galt Area Future, filed a legal complaint against a state PAC, Cosumnes Communities Together, alleging campaign finance violations in the 2006 campaign. At the same time, the City of Galt is currently pursuing legal action against Protecting Galt Area Future for allegations of similar campaign violation ordinances of Galt's campaign finance limitation ordinance, known to be one of the strictest in the state. Given all the legal exchanges and accumulating costs, what is your opinion of Galt's campaign finance limitation ordinance as a candidate?
Frederick?
I think the campaign finance ordinance is flawed in several ways. One, it has not been indexed to inflation. So when it was passed in 2002, $99 limit was adequate, but 6 years later, we've had inflation. It doesn't buy what it used to. My campaign is self-funded. You can run a campaign minimally self-funded. I think the campaign ordinance actually invited PACs into the city because people do not have the wherewithal, especially this year in economic times, tight economic times, to write checks to people. So I think we need to look at that ordinance and see if it's, I understand the intent, it was a good intent, but it was a bad ordinance.
Thank you. Rick?
Yeah, the ordinance it does make it tough to run for city council, being new to this process and trying to generate a campaign. The $99 contribution does make it tough, but it makes it fair. And when you're dealing with outside PACs and the campaign violations that you're talking about, the ordinance does make it fair, and I support the current campaign.
Thank you. Randy?
Well, the campaign finance reform, I guess my understanding was so outsiders couldn't come in and quote unquote developers couldn't buy someone. which developers have always paid their fair share. As to running a campaign, yes, it is very difficult. I've started my own just like everyone else, and I guess my question when it went to the voters, but when it got voted in, is why is the city of Galt the most restrictive in the state? I don't know. I understand that we're the only one, or maybe one other city, and I just have a hard time following that. Because I'm an honest person, so I would take contributions from 20, 15, up to 99. It is what it is, and we live with it. We do the best we can.
Thank you. Loretta, your question will go to Tim, followed by Barbara and Frederick.
Okay. I'm going to ask about the, I guess I'll call it a fledgling recall effort in the city of Galt. While there is no one in this panel subject or the target of a recall by a group of citizens in Galt, the issue is underlying much of what happens there, and that's the issue of growth. So my question is, do you support the recall effort, or do you oppose the recall effort, and in either case, why?
Tim.
I oppose the recall effort because what's going on is you have a millionaire landowner that obviously lives out of town that's trying to buy this election. So she's trying to recall 2 council members through a group that was created by people that she's working with. And it's a total sham, and that's why I wrote the campaign finance ordinance, to prevent what's happening from what's occurring in Galt. And it has severely restricted the ability of that group to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to steal this election. Now, some of the same people that are trying to recall these 2 council members tried to recall me in 2000, I believe it was 2002. And it was a sham back then, and it's a sham now. And hopefully the people will see through what's going on and not believe the lies that are being spread around this community.
Thank you. Barbara.
Well, let me say that I feel like these people have come to the point where they want to do this recall because they feel like the people's choices have been ignored, as well as an unfair situation regarding the landowner. My own personal opinion regarding the recall is I oppose it. I have never been for it. I think that you have to go with what the people have said, who they have elected, and then if you don't agree with them, then you vote them out the next time around. But I do understand the passion that these people feel in their efforts to conduct this recall.
Thank you. And Frederick.
Much like Barbara, I support the people's right to express their political beliefs through a recall. I think that's a fundamental thing that was written into the state of California's Constitution. However, we're in tight economic times. We can't afford to be holding a special election, and I really am not in favor of recalls for anything that are short of criminal actions. So in this one, I can't support it.
Thank you. Ross? Another group?
Okay.
Pardon me? I got through everybody, right? Okay. Ross, your question will go to Barbara, Rick, and Frederick.
Okay. Can Galt get the new commercial most people desire without building a large number of homes to support it?
Well, according to this economic development group that is independent, CalEd came and said they surveyed the people of Galt, and the people of Galt wanted more opportunities to shop and find entertainment in Galt. And they very clearly said, and their objective is to have that, you have to have more rooftops. It's just the fact, especially when you have Elk Grove to the north and you have Lodi to the south that attracts people to those areas. It has taken a lot of revenue out that has not enticed builders to come and retailers to come to Galt. I think as a city, we need to really actively work on embracing people that want to come to Galt, find ways to solve their problems. We need to be aggressive in trying to get more economic development and retail in Galt.
Thank you. Rick?
Yes, as I walk and I talk with people, everybody seems to want more retail, and to develop an economic plan like that, we need to have, we need to, again, it all comes back to the general plan. We need to get our general plan done so that we can develop existing land for retail, commercial retail. The current proposed general plan contains, I believe, 686 acres of retail commercial use, 274 within the city limits. As a city council member, I will work to, with the community and leaders, to put a group together to try to show what Galt needs as far as retail, restaurants, and movie theaters, and we definitely need commercial land and the general plan done so we can accomplish this.
Thank you. Frederick?
I think we can attract retail, given the rooftops we have. I don't know that we can attract things that are multinational like Target, especially if Walmart comes into town. I think we need to be targeting certain types of businesses. On Twin Cities Road, we currently have development. We're having another pharmacy, which we already have plenty of. We're having a tractor supply store, which we already have a hardware store and a tractor place right out of town, right outside town in the county, and another supermarket. So I think we're good on those things. I think we need to be going after the chain restaurants, and I think we need to be making a pitch to them. There's 23,000 residents in Galt. There's enough people there to support these. I've lived in smaller towns that have had much more commercial development.
Thank you. Rachel, your question will go to Tim, followed by Randy and Rick.
Okay, this is an easy one, you guys. We need you to tell us one clear and specific reason as a candidate why we need you and why we should vote for you, and if you are an incumbent, why we should vote to retain you on our city council.
Well, one simple reason is if the council changes again to what it was 4 years ago, the general plan will be thrown out by the new council. We will start all over again. So instead of spending, I don't know, $600,000-700,000 on our general plan, we're going to go up to $1 million. And then the city's possible retail development outside our city limits will be delayed probably for 2-3 years. And we'll add a new area in, which is a Delta Greens project, and that will cause lawsuits from the environmentalists, and we will just be in a mess for years to come. So that's why we need to continue the path that the current council is on.
Thank you. Randy?
I never said before, but I was on council before, 2002 and 2006, and I'm proud that I was the vice mayor for 4 years. During that time, we had a couple of committees that I actually started, and one was a Builder Developer Staff Council. That was a committee to assist those people, whether it was an individual, a developer, a homeowner, to move forward so that they come to council and get things done. There was also a Public Safety Advisory Committee. Those are the things that we need to do. I want to go back to moving the city forward so we're cohesive, so we're doing things together, and talking to all the elected officials that I spoke to about earlier, which is Assembly, Congress, senators, the governor's office, federal, whoever we need to, whatever we need to. I've been in public safety for over 40 years. I know a lot of people. That doesn't mean a whole lot, but it does due to the fact that you know them and you talk to them. Open communications.
Thank you. And Rick?
I'm a candidate for change. I have experience as a negotiator and mediator, and I will work with all the colleagues on the city council. I will support the current general plan. We really need to get the general plan so we can get on with the economic development in our city, and I will continue to support any economic development we can have, so.
Thank you. And now we're going to have our panelists pose an individual question to each of our candidates. So we're going to start with Loretta and have you pose a question to Barbara, Ross to Tim, Rachel to Rick, then starting again Loretta to Frederick, and Ross to Randy. And I'm sure you kept very good notes on that. But Loretta, will you pose an individual question to Barbara, and only Barbara will answer that question, and then the second question will only be answered by the person who's it's directed to.
I think you said in your last remarks that you need more rooftops, if I understood you correctly, and that would support more retail. But you also have a serious problem in Galt with people who are, like every community, facing unemployment, the loss of their homes, and the job base in Galt is very small. So how would you improve things to have more rooftops when the businesses, such as restaurants, are afraid to come in because they feel their fear not getting enough patronage?
Well, yeah, I wish we would quit using the word rooftops, because rooftops provide homes for families. And I don't foresee Galt getting many more rooftops, if you want to say that, for the next couple of years with the economy like it is. And the statement was actually made by CalEd that we needed more rooftops. But in the meantime, we need to see what we can do. We can work at this. We can try to solve problems. For example, with our economic development, I think if we can project an attitude from Galt, from the city of Galt, from the staff, from our building and permitting department, that we want to do whatever we can do to make it easier for you to come here. We also are looking at our high schools and developing special classes for trades and technical careers. We want to start developing a good job base, labor base.
Thank you. Ross, can you direct a question to Tim, please?
Okay. This is pretty straightforward, I guess. What would, if you're reelected, what would be your top priority in your new term?
Well, if we don't finish our general plan in the next month and a half, it's going to be to finish that general plan. And let me kind of show the public what's going on with our general plan. This is all new commercial development in our general plan, all the red areas. All the pink areas are office professional. All the gray areas are industrial development. All this industrial development is going to bring in hundreds of jobs to our city, but we have to finish this plan and we have to move forward with it if we want to create jobs for our city. So it's finishing our general plan, creating jobs for the public.
Thank you. Rachel, can you direct a question to Rick?
Yes, Rick, how do you feel about big box retail establishments being built and operated on Twin Cities Road?
When we talk about big box, I was a supporter for the ordinance that limits the square footage of big box. I feel that that area and other properties inside of Galt need to be developed. As far as a big box operator, I think whoever decides to build on that piece of property, if it's Walmart, should go by the standards that the city council has set and follow the ordinance. It's ordinance of 99,000 square feet. If something that big was to come to Galt, we already have economic problems in our city. As if something that large was to come, we would need to get the competition would be unreal. So if big box on Twin Cities Road is to come, I would hope it would go under the ordinance.
Loretta, thank you. Loretta, to Frederick, please.
Hi. There have been a couple of allusions and one reference to Delta Greens. The project, the large senior project proposed north of the current update boundary for the general plan. And in January of '07, it was drawn out of that general plan update. And that's an issue, that is a project that keeps coming back with every election in the city. What's good about that project or that idea, and what's bad about that project or that idea?
Delta Greens offers a lot of opportunities to the city. Seniors are good for spending money within the city. They don't tend to leave the city to go shopping. They volunteer at local agencies such as the high school, the elementary schools, various committees. There probably would not be a huge impact on traffic because they'd be running a bus service. From what I understand, they plan to offer Purple Pipe to be able to use the sewerage water from the treatment plant, the excess, to irrigate their golf course and whatever. The downside is you have to be very careful about how close they get to the Consumnes River and be cautious about the plans there. I haven't seen any plans, so I really can't say on that, but I think you have to be very careful about the river and the environmental impacts.
Thank you. And Ross to Randy.
Well, same question I asked Tim. If you're elected, what would be your top priority come December or January when you take office?
Well, I think one of the main focuses on Galt City Council should be to prepare our community for the future without forgetting our past. There are numerous things that we have discussed today, and some of the things that I answered with was respect, moving things to working with everyone. I got about 1,000 things going on in my mind. You said kind of one, so I'll just close with that statement.
Thank you. Before I conclude the question and answer period, I promised candidates that they could respond to something that had been addressed to other candidates, but we don't have much time. So you have 30 seconds if you would like to take advantage and respond to a question that you didn't have time to. But remember, we do have closing statements where you will have a minute to wrap up. So I'm going to start on to my left and with Tim.
I have to respond to the question on campaign finance reform. I wrote the campaign finance reform initiative that the voters passed by 60-40 ratio in 2002. It was written because out-of-town special interests, not developers, but out-of-town special interests were trying to buy elections in Galt. That's why it was written, and it has resolved that problem. It is not the most restrictive ordinance in the state. It's not even close to that. I looked at dozens of ordinances from cities all over the state, and many of them are more restrictive than Galt. So it is a fair ordinance, it's respectable for the public, and it makes elections in Galt fair and equal for everyone.
Thank you. Randy, remember, 30 seconds.
Okay. One thing that we cannot do if we don't take care of the wastewater treatment plant, we've got to move that forward. We've got to make a sound decision. That's it.
Very concise. Thank you. Barbara.
Very quickly, I wanted to go back to my concern about the expenditure of over $900,000 for enhancements to the overpass. I think before we tried to build this beautiful gateway to the downtown area of Galt, we need to address the problem of the vacant buildings. That should be the priority. I'd love to have the beautiful overpass. I'm very active in the beautification committee, but I care more about the people that are there in the city at this point and the businesses.
Thank you. Frederick.
I agree with Barbara that the overpass was a boondoggle. $1 million extra dollars for a bridge that goes virtually nowhere. We need the overpass, but it is a bridge. It'll be dynamited again probably in 40 years. We need to start cutting the waste.
Thank you. And Rick.
I'd like to visit the issue on the recall. I don't believe the citizens of Galt will be fooled on this empty attempt by special interests. Where was this group during the last decade when we were dealing with the issues on that area? Mayor Meredith and Vice Haynes have done an excellent job. This recall will just divide the city at a critical time when we should be uniting and working together.
Thank you. That concludes our question and answer. We're going to go right into closing statements, and we are going to start with Rick Sultan.
I've made it my life's work to make a positive difference in the lives of all working people. As a council member, I will continue to strive for the changes that the people of Galt need. I will work with my colleagues and forge a new path to develop a strong economic plan while making sure your tax dollars are spent wisely. I will use my experience as a business representative for two of Galt's largest employers to create a business-friendly environment to bring quality new jobs and badly needed tax dollars to our community. I will use my professional experience as a negotiator and a mediator to move Galt forward when it comes to dealing with the challenges our city will face in the future, such as the general plan, the budget, economic development, public safety, park improvements, and transportation. I will always listen and respect your views. Galt is a special community, and the qualities that make Galt a special place need to be protected. I would be honored to have your vote, and thank you.
Thank you. Next closing statement by Frederick Gaethel.
I've spent the last 30 years volunteering in various governmental agencies. I'm experienced in budgeting, cutting budgets, finding ways, creative ways to enhance revenues, to fill gaps. I'm also known as a bridge builder. I work well with others. I try to get consensus opinion, and I think that's what we need in the city. There's too much division in the city, too much divisiveness. So I'd ask for your vote to help change the way the city's going, help end the divisiveness, and thank you.
Thank you. Our closing statement by Barbara Payne.
Thank you. Well, these are my goals for the future of Galt. We had a citizen survey some time ago, and it showed very low satisfaction among the citizens of Galt compared to other cities. I think that's something that we really want to work on. We're proud of being a small town, but we need to be sure that our small town atmosphere is serving the community. I believe that we do need to build better relationships and trusts with other agencies, such as the CSD and the school districts. And I just want to say, it's not about pro-growth or slow growth. It's about finding ways to solve the existing problems and planning for the future. That usually takes money, so where's it going to come from? And I would like to say that I take no money from taxpayers for health insurance because I took this job to serve, not to benefit personally. I hope you will allow me to continue in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Closing statement by Randy Shelton.
First of all, thank you, the League of Women Voters, Sacramento County, for hosting this forum. Thank you. In closing, as a proud veteran of 40 years in the fire service, working in the public service, I am dedicated to serving the citizens of a Galt community. As your Galt City Council member, my focus will be to prepare our community for the future without forgetting our past. I will provide leadership and respect the voices of all those I serve. Above all, my #1 priority is to respect the citizens of Galt at all times and put a stop to the endless spending of hundreds of thousands of dollars on consultant fees. I want to move our city forward and be positive, and I ask for your vote on November the 4th. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And our final closing statement by Tim Raboy.
I want to thank the citizens of Galt for watching today's debate. As you can see from the candidates' answers, many candidates are very different in their views on the future direction of Galt. As a council member during the last 4 years, I successfully brought forward the Residential Fire Life Safety Ordinance, Galt Certifies Farmers Market, Galt's Winter Bird Festival, Galt's Tough New Graffiti Ordinance, and Galt Market Improvements. We have stabilized utility rates, eliminated a garbage transfer station in the middle of Galt, assisted Delta College in purchasing property next to our city, opened 2 new community parks, and supported retail, commercial, and hotel development. Galt must continue to diversify our income base with retail businesses and jobs. I support a general plan that will do just this. I promise to maintain controlled, managed residential growth and to be fiscally responsible, and have been true to my word. Please vote for me if you like Galt the way it is and you want to see it grow in a positive way. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our forum for today. On behalf of the League of Women Voters and the Sacramento Metropolitan Cable Television Commission, I'd like to thank our candidates for Galt City Council and our panelists for helping to make this forum possible, as well as all of the volunteers who have helped. We hope the information that you have heard today will help you in making your decision for the November 4th general election. If you're interested in rebroadcast times for this forum, please check the Metro Cable Channel 14 bulletin board between 6 and 8 a.m. each day. And remember, please vote on November 4th and help make our democracy work.